December 24th, 1944, 0600 hours, Bastogne, Belgium. Second Lieutenant James Spears crouched in a frozen foxhole, watching German artillery shells explode across the tree line. The 101st Airborne Division had been surrounded for 6 days. No resupply convoys. No reinforcements. No way out. The men were running out of everything. Ammunition was rationed. Medical supplies were critically low. Food had become a memory. Soldiers ate snow to fill their stomachs and chewed on tree bark to give their jaws something to do. The cold was killing men faster than German bullets. Frostbite turned fingers black. Hypothermia made soldiers delirious. Some men simply stopped moving, sat down in their foxholes, closed their eyes, and died quietly while their companions watched helplessly. Spears commanded 3rd Platoon, Easy Company, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 42 men when they jumped into Bastogne on December 19th. 31 men still alive on Christmas Eve. The rest were dead, wounded, or missing. His platoon occupied a section of the perimeter northeast of town. Frozen ground. No shelter. Constant German probing attacks. Every night brought firefights. Every day brought shelling. The siege was grinding his men into dust. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. At 0700 hours, Spears heard aircraft engines, high altitude, heavy bombers. The sound grew louder. Men looked up. Through the overcast sky, dark shapes appeared. Say 47 transport aircraft, dozens of them, flying in formation. The aerial resupply operation everyone had been promised. The planes came in low, parachutes blossomed, hundreds of them. Red, white, blue canopies drifting down through German anti-aircraft fire, supply containers swinging beneath. Some landed inside American lines, others drifted into German positions. Soldiers scrambled to recover whatever they could reach. Spears sent a squad to retrieve containers that landed near his position. They dragged back 4 bundles. Standard resupply containers. Canvas wrapped, rope bound, parachute attached. The men cut the ropes and opened the first bundle. Inside were ammunition crates, 30 caliber rounds for M1 rifles. Bandoliers of clips, grenades, mortar shells, everything wrapped in waterproof packaging. The second bundle contained medical supplies, sulfur powder, morphine azuretis, bandages, plasma. A battalion surgeon appeared within minutes to claim it. The wounded needed those supplies desperately. The third bundle held winter clothing, wool socks, gloves, scarves, long underwear, overshoes. Men grabbed items immediately. Some soldiers had been wearing the same frozen, blood-stained uniforms for a week. Clean wool socks felt like luxury. The fourth bundle was different. Smaller packages. Cardboard boxes. Each box approximately 12 inches long, 9 inches wide, 6 inches deep. Brown waterproof coating. Shipping labels addressed to 1st Lieutenant Harold Kingsley, Quartermaster Corps, 8th Field Hospital, Bastogne. The boxes were marked, fragile, priority delivery, special handling required. Spears had never seen supply containers marked that way. One of his sergeants, a man named Robert Chen, picked up a box and shook it gently. Something rattled inside. Not ammunition, not medical equipment. Something lighter. Chen used his trench knife to cut the waterproof coating and opened the box. Inside was tissue paper. Each one individually wrapped, each one labelled with a handwritten tag. Chen pulled out the first package. The tag read, "For a soldier far from home, Merry Christmas from Scranton, Pennsylvania." He unwrapped it. Inside was a wool scarf, hand-knitted, dark blue, soft, well made. The kind of scarf a mother would make for her son. Chen stared at it for a moment, then carefully folded it and put it in his pack. He opened another package. This one contained a pair of dry socks, a chocolate bar, a pack of cigarettes, and a small bottle of aspirin. The tag said, "Stay warm, stay safe, God bless you. The Morrison family, Ohio." Another package held a pocket New Testament, a pencil, writing paper, and postage stamps. The tag read, "Write home. They miss you. From the ladies of First Baptist Church, Kentucky." The men gathered around. They had been fighting for days without rest, without food, without hope. Now they were opening Christmas presents from strangers thousands of miles away, civilians who would never meet them, families who had packed these boxes with care, churches and community groups who had shipped them across the Atlantic, all to reach soldiers, surrounded in a frozen Belgian town on Christmas Eve. Spears opened another container. More boxes, more individually wrapped packages, each one different. Some contained food, canned ham, fruitcake, hard candy, nuts. Others held practical items, razor blades, soap, toothpaste, handkerchiefs. Some included small luxuries, playing cards, harmonicas, pocket chess sets, paperback books. Every package had a handwritten note, personal messages from Americans to soldiers they would never know. One soldier, named David Park, opened a package containing a photograph, a family portrait. Mother, father, 3 children, standing in front of a house somewhere in America. The back of the photograph had a message written in careful script. The Henderson family, Iowa. Park tucked the photograph inside his helmet liner. He would carry it through the rest of the war. Another soldier, Thomas Wu. Package containing 12 cookies wrapped in wax paper. Homemade oatmeal raisin cookies, still soft despite traveling thousands of miles. The note said his grandmother's recipe, made with real butter and brown sugar, baked with love and prayers. Wu shared the cookies with his squad. Each man took one bite and made it last as long as possible. They had been eating cold sea rations for days. A warm cookie tasted like heaven. The boxes kept coming. Every supply bundle contained them. Someone had packed these boxes specifically for the 101st Airborne at Bastogne. Someone knew these men were surrounded, isolated, fighting for survival. Someone decided they needed more than ammunition and medical supplies. They needed to know people back home cared. They needed to feel human again. They needed Christmas. Spears learned later that the boxes came from First Lieutenant Harold Kingsley. Kingsley was a quartermaster officer assigned to 8th Field Hospital in Bastogne. He had been trapped inside the perimeter since the siege began. He worked 20-hour days, coordinating logistics, tracking inventory, requesting resupply. On December 20th, Kingsley sent a radio message to Rear Supply Headquarters requesting emergency medical supplies. Plasma, morphine, sulfur drugs, bandages. The hospital was treating hundreds of casualties. Supplies were running out. Without resupply, wounded men would die. Headquarters replied that aerial resupply was being organized. Weather permitting, C-47 transports would drop supplies within 48 hours. Kingsley should prepare a detailed requisition list. Everything needed for sustained operations. Kingsley worked through the night preparing lists. Medical supplies, ammunition, food, winter clothing. Everything calculated precisely. Quantities, weights, container specifications, military logistics required. Exact documentation. But on December 21st, Kingsley did something unauthorized. He added an additional request to his requisition, 2,000 individual Christmas packages, each package to contain small personal items, food, toiletries, comfort items, handwritten notes. He specified that packages should be assembled by civilian volunteers, churches, community groups, families, people who wanted to help soldiers but had no other way to contribute. The packages should be individually wrapped, each one different, each one personal. Military supplies were standardized and impersonal. These packages should feel like gifts from home. Kingsley had no authority to request such items. Quartermaster regulations did not include Christmas packages in authorized supply categories. Transport aircraft had limited cargo capacity. Every pound mattered. Using valuable cargo space for non-essential items violated established procedures. But Kingsley submitted the request anyway. He knew it would probably be rejected. Logistics officers would delete it from the requisition and approve only essential supplies. But he had to try. The men in Bastogne needed something beyond bullets and bandages. They needed hope. The request reached 3rd Army Headquarters in Luxembourg on December 22nd. A supply colonel named William Hargrove reviewed it. Hargrove was career military, 23 years service. He had managed logistics in North Africa, Sicily, Italy, France. He understood supply chains, transportation networks, distribution systems. He knew how to move materials efficiently across war zones. He also knew regulations. The Christmas package request violated multiple policies, non-essential items, unauthorized expenditure, inefficient use of transport capacity. Proper procedure required rejection. Hargrove sat at his desk, reading Kingsley's request for the 3rd time. 2,000 packages, individually wrapped, personal items, handwritten notes. It was irregular. It was inefficient. It was exactly what those men needed. Hargrove approved the request. He wrote authorization personally. Priority status. Special handling required. He attached a note to supply officers at Cherbourg and Antwerp. Assemble packages immediately. Use civilian volunteers, churches, Red Cross, community organizations, personal items only. Each package different. Each package wrapped with care. Ship by fastest available transport to forward airfields. Load on C-47s. Scheduled for Bastogne resupply mission. December 24th. The authorization reached port logistics centers on December 22nd. Supply officers scrambled to implement it. 2,000 packages in 48 hours. Impossible timeline. But orders were orders. They contacted Red Cross offices, contacted military chaplains, contacted civilian liaison officers. The message went out across Allied rear areas in France. American soldiers surrounded at Bastogne. Need Christmas packages. Small, personal items. Handwritten notes. Volunteers needed immediately. The response was overwhelming. Within 6 hours, volunteers were arriving at supply depots. American Red Cross workers, Army nurses, civilian contractors, Belgian families, French resistance members, British liaison officers. Everyone who heard about the project wanted to help. Women brought knitting, scarves, socks, gloves, hats, all handmade, all donated. Churches contributed Bibles, prayer books, rosaries, religious medals. Community groups assembled care packages, soap, razors, toothpaste, handkerchiefs, writing paper. Families donated food, homemade cookies, fruitcake, hard candy, canned goods. Everything was sorted, packaged, wrapped. Each box different. Each box containing 4 to 6 items. Each box including a handwritten note, personal messages to unknown soldiers. The volunteers worked through the night. Assembly lines formed, women wrapping packages, men loading boxes into transport trucks, chaplains writing, blessing cards, everyone contributing whatever they could. By December 23rd, 1,700 packages were ready. Not quite 2,000, but close. They were loaded onto trucks and driven to forward airfields. The packages arrived at airfields on December 24th at 0300 hours. C-47 crews were already loading standard supply bundles, ammunition, medical supplies, food, winter clothing, everything organized into standardized containers with parachutes attached. Ground crews added the Christmas boxes, special containers, marked fragile, addressed to Lieutenant Kingsley. The packages were aboard. The mission launched at 0500 hours. 241 C-47s, the largest aerial resupply operation of the European War. Each aircraft carried supplies for the surrounded garrison at Bastogne, standard military cargo, and 1,700 Christmas packages from strangers. The aircraft flew through heavy weather and German anti-aircraft fire. 16 planes were shot down. 23 were damaged. But most reached Bastogne. Parachutes deployed. Supply bundles fell, including the Christmas boxes. American soldiers surrounded in frozen foxholes opened packages from people they would never meet. They found scarves knitted by grandmothers in Pennsylvania, cookies baked by housewives in Ohio, Bibles donated by churches in Kentucky, letters written by children who wanted soldiers to know someone cared. The psychological impact was immediate and profound. These men had been fighting for 6 days with minimal supplies and no prospect of relief. They knew the strategic situation. Surrounded, outnumbered, running out of everything. Many expected to die in Bastogne. Then parachutes appeared. Supplies fell. And among the ammunition and medical equipment were Christmas presents, not military supplies, gifts. Personal items wrapped with care by people who took time to think about individual soldiers and what they might need. Each package said the same thing. You are not forgotten. People back home know you are here. They care about you. They want you to survive. They are praying for you. Men who had not cried in months wept openly. Hardened paratroopers who had jumped into Normandy and fought across France sat in foxholes, reading handwritten notes from strangers and broke down. Not from fear, not from exhaustion, from gratitude. Someone cared enough to knit a scarf. Someone cared enough to bake cookies. Someone cared enough to write a letter to a soldier they would never meet. That caring mattered more than the physical items. The scarf would keep a soldier warm. The cookies would ease hunger. But the knowledge that strangers took time to help, that mattered most. It reminded these men that they were fighting for something real, not abstract concepts like freedom and democracy. Those were important, but distant. These packages represented actual people, families, living normal lives in peaceful American towns, people who wanted soldiers to come home, people who appreciated the sacrifice being made on their behalf. That appreciation sustained morale in ways military supplies could not. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Spears watched his men opening packages throughout Christmas Eve morning. The presents transformed the platoon. Men who had been silent and withdrawn began talking again, sharing what they received, reading notes aloud, laughing at funny messages, making plans for after the war. One soldier said he would visit the family in Iowa who sent him a care package. Another said he would write to the church in Kentucky that provided his Bible. They were thinking about the future again. 24 hours earlier, many had given up hope. Now they were making plans. The Christmas packages did that. Simple gifts from strangers reminded these men that life continued beyond this frozen foxhole. Families were waiting. Communities were supporting them. America had not forgotten its soldiers trapped in Belgium. That knowledge was worth more than ammunition. Chen approached Spears carrying one of the packages. He handed it to his lieutenant. Spears opened it carefully. Inside was a letter written on lined notebook paper. The handwriting was careful and precise. A child's handwriting. The letter said, "Dear soldier, my name is Margaret. I am 9 years old. My daddy is fighting in the Pacific. I miss him very much. I made you a scarf. I hope it keeps you warm. Please stay safe and come home. Your friend, Margaret." Attached to the letter was a blue wool scarf. Hand knitted, uneven stitches. Clearly made by a child. Spears held the scarf and read the letter 3 times. He imagined a 9-year-old girl sitting at a kitchen table knitting a scarf for a stranger while her father fought in the Pacific. She did not know who would receive it. She did not know if it would even reach a soldier. But she made it anyway because her teacher said soldiers needed help, and this was what she could do. Spears folded the scarf and put it in his pack. He would keep it for the rest of the war. After Bastogne, after Germany, after victory, he would return to America and track down Margaret. He would thank her personally. He would tell her that her scarf kept him warm during the coldest days of his life. He would tell her that her letter reminded him why he was fighting, to protect children like her, to ensure they could grow up in a world where 9-year-old girls knitted scarves instead of dodging bombs. That was worth fighting for. That was worth dying for, if necessary. But he would prefer to live and thank her in person. The Christmas packages had that effect. They personalized the war, made it about real people, instead of abstract causes. Soldiers fought harder when they fought for someone specific, for Margaret who knitted scarves, for the Henderson family who prayed every night, for the ladies of First Baptist Church who wanted soldiers to write home. These were real people making real sacrifices to support men they would never meet. That support deserved recognition. That support required soldiers to survive and win so they could return home and thank the people who cared. December 25th, 1944. Christmas Day. The weather cleared. American fighter bombers appeared. P-47s flying close air support. They attacked German positions surrounding Bastogne. Bombs, rockets, machine gun fire. The German offensive stalled. That afternoon, elements of 4th Armored Division broke through from the south. The siege was lifted. Relief columns entered Bastogne carrying supplies and reinforcements. The 101st Airborne had held 2,000 men opening Christmas. Packages on December 24th believed they would survive to see December 25th. That belief sustained them through the final desperate hours before relief arrived. They fought harder because they had something to fight for. Personal connections to people back home. Strangers who cared enough to send gifts. That caring translated into combat effectiveness. Soldiers who believed people appreciated their sacrifice fought with greater determination than soldiers who felt forgotten and abandoned. Lieutenant Kingsley never saw the packages distributed. He remained at 8th Field Hospital coordinating medical logistics. But reports filtered back. Soldiers talking about the Christmas boxes. Men showing each other what they received. Morale improving noticeably. Kingsley heard these reports and felt satisfied. His unauthorized request had been approved. The packages had reached the men. They had served their purpose. That was enough. He returned to his regular duties. Tracking, medical supplies, coordinating equipment, managing hospital logistics. The war continued. Bastogne was relieved, but fighting continued across Belgium. German forces retreated slowly. American forces advanced cautiously. The Battle of the Bulge would last until late January. Thousands more casualties. thousands more logistical challenges. Kingsley worked through all of it. Quiet. Professional, doing his job without recognition or complaint. Colonel Hargrove also heard reports about the Christmas packages, positive feedback from frontline units, improved morale, enhanced combat effectiveness, soldiers expressing gratitude. He filed the reports and said nothing. He had approved an irregular request that violated established procedures. The fact that it worked did not make it regulation. He would not publicize it. He would not recommend it as standard practice. It was a one-time exception for extraordinary circumstances. But privately, Hargrove believed it was the right decision. Logistics was not just about moving materials efficiently. Sometimes it meant Christmas presents from strangers. Understanding the difference required judgment that regulations could not provide. Hargrove had exercised that judgment. The results justified the decision. That was sufficient. The volunteers who assembled packages never learned what happened to them. They packed boxes, wrote notes, sent everything to military supply depots, then returned to their regular lives. They assumed the packages reached soldiers somewhere. They hoped soldiers appreciated them, but they received no confirmation. No thank you letters, no acknowledgement. Military mail systems during active combat operations did not facilitate two-way communication between anonymous donors and recipients. The volunteers accepted that. They had helped because helping was right, not because they expected gratitude. Soldiers were fighting and dying to protect them. That was enough motivation. The German soldiers who surrounded Bastogne also noticed the aerial resupply operation on Christmas Eve. They watched from their positions as hundreds of parachutes descended into American lines. They counted the aircraft. They estimated the tonnage. They calculated what those supplies meant for the besieged garrison. The Americans would be resupplied. The siege would continue. The breakthrough to relieve Bastogne would probably succeed. The offensive was failing. Obergefreiter Klaus Richter crouched in a frozen trench 200 meters from American positions. He had been fighting since December 16th. 9 days of constant combat. His regiment had advanced 30 kilometers in the first 3 days. Then the advance stopped. American resistance stiffened. Supply lines stretched too thin. Fuel ran out. Ammunition became scarce. Food disappeared. Now his unit was stuck outside Bastogne, unable to advance, unable to retreat, slowly freezing and starving, while American aircraft dropped supplies to their enemies. Richter watched the parachutes descending. He knew what those containers held: food, ammunition, medical supplies, everything the Americans needed to continue fighting. His own unit had received nothing for 4 days. The last resupply convoy had been destroyed by American fighter bombers. Trucks burned, supplies lost, men killed. Since then, nothing. German logistics had collapsed completely. Units lived on whatever they could scavenge. Some soldiers had eaten their emergency rations on December 18th. Now they were hungry. Constantly, painfully hungry. The kind of hunger that makes men weak and desperate. One of the American supply bundles landed outside the perimeter. Between German and American lines, no man's land, both sides saw it. Neither side could reach it safely. The bundle sat there for 3 hours. Then darkness fell. A German patrol crawled forward to investigate. They cut the parachute harness and dragged the bundle back to their lines. Inside were ration boxes, American 10-in-1 rations, packaged meals for 10 soldiers for 1 day. Each box contained canned meat, vegetables, fruit, crackers, coffee, sugar, chocolate, cigarettes, matches, toilet paper, everything needed for complete meals. The patrol distributed the food to their company. 43 men sharing rations meant for 10. Everyone received something. Not much, but something. Richter opened a can of American beef stew. He ate it cold with his fingers. The meat was tender. The vegetables were recognizable. The sauce had actual flavor. German field rations in December 1944 consisted of hard bread, ersatz coffee, and occasional canned meat that was mostly fat. Arrived at all, which they frequently did not. Many frontline units had been without official food supplies for weeks. Soldiers foraged from Belgian civilians, slaughtered farm animals, stole from abandoned houses. Anything to eat. The American ration represented something different. Industrial abundance. Proper nutrition. A military that fed its soldiers adequately. Richter finished the beef stew and examined the empty can. The manufacturing date was stamped on the bottom. November 1944. 6 weeks ago. The Americans were producing food so recently that supplies manufactured weeks earlier were already at the front lines in Belgium. His company commander, Hauptmann Ernst Weber, gathered the empty American ration containers after the meal. He studied them carefully. The waterproof packaging, the manufacturing dates, the variety of contents. Weber was a professional officer. Career military. He understood logistics. He recognized what these rations represented, an industrial system that produced millions of meal packages monthly and delivered them anywhere needed. Germany had never achieved that capability. The Wehrmacht's logistics system was breaking down after 5 years of total war. Factories were bombed, transportation networks were destroyed, raw materials were unavailable. The military could barely feed soldiers at the front, let alone feed them well. American logistics showed no such strain. The rations were high quality, recently manufactured, abundantly supplied. That abundance revealed economic capacity Germany could not match. Weber called Richter over. He asked if Richter had noticed the parachutes that morning. Different colors. Red, white, blue. Standard resupply used military green parachutes. The colored parachutes indicated special cargo. Weber had seen German intelligence reports about American morale programs. Comfort items, non-essential supplies, entertainment materials, things designed to maintain soldier psychological health rather than combat capability. The Americans could afford to dedicate cargo space to morale items. They had sufficient production capacity that inefficiency was acceptable if it improved soldier welfare. Germany had no such luxury. Every kilogram of cargo space was precious. Only essential items could be transported: food, ammunition, fuel, medical supplies, nothing else. The Americans dropped comfort items on Christmas Eve while surrounded. That demonstrated confidence. They expected to survive. They expected to win. Christmas Day brought clear weather. American fighter bombers appeared in force. P-47s and P-51s flying close air support missions. They attacked German positions relentlessly. Bombs fell. Rockets fired. Machine guns strafed trenches. Richter's regiment took heavy casualties. Men were killed. Equipment was destroyed. Positions were overrun. The Luftwaffe was absent. No German aircraft appeared to challenge American air superiority. Belonged to the enemy. Weber told his officers that 4th Armored Division was approaching from the south. American relief columns were breaking through German defensive lines. Bastogne would be relieved within hours. The Sieg had failed. The regiment received orders to withdraw, pull back to secondary positions, avoid encirclement, preserve combat capability for future operations. The withdrawal began that afternoon. German units retreated under constant air attack. American aircraft hunted anything that moved. Trucks were destroyed. Tanks were abandoned. Men marched on foot through snow carrying whatever equipment they could manage. Wounded were left behind with medical personnel. No transportation existed to evacuate them. They would become prisoners. Richter marched east with his company. 51 men when the offensive began on December 16th. 23 men still alive on December 25th. The rest were casualties. Dead, wounded, missing, captured. The survivors were exhausted, hungry, demoralized. They had advanced 30 kilometers in 3 days and then spent 6 days accomplishing nothing while losing half their strength. The offensive had been a complete failure. Weber marched alongside his men. He carried a rifle like an enlisted soldier because his staff car had run out of fuel 3 days earlier. Officers walked like everyone else. Rank provided no privileges when logistics collapsed. During the march, Weber talked with Richter about the offensive, why it failed, what went wrong. Weber blamed logistics. The plan required fuel that did not exist. It required supplies that could not be delivered. It required air superiority. Germany had lost years earlier. The tactical execution was adequate. German soldiers fought well. Officers made reasonable decisions, but tactics meant nothing without supplies. An army without fuel cannot maneuver. An army without ammunition cannot fight. An army without food cannot sustain operations. Germany had lost the capacity to support modern warfare. The industrial base was destroyed. The transportation network was shattered. The economic system was exhausted. Weber compared German logistics to what they had observed of American logistics. The aerial resupply on Christmas Eve, the quality of captured rations, the abundance of abandoned equipment. Americans had functioning supply lines stretching from factories in the United States across the Atlantic Ocean to frontline positions in Belgium. Ships crossed oceans. Trucks drove hundreds of kilometers. Aircraft flew supplies into surrounded garrisons. The system worked under pressure. German logistics collapsed under the same pressure. Supply convoys were destroyed by air attacks. Fuel trucks never reached the front. Ammunition stocks were depleted. Food supplies disappeared. The system failed because Germany lacked the industrial capacity and transportation infrastructure to sustain total war against enemies with superior resources. Richter asked Weber when he knew Germany would lose the war. Weber said he suspected after Stalingrad in 1943. He knew certainly after the Normandy invasion in June 1944. Once America committed its full industrial strength to the European theatre, German defeat became inevitable. Not immediate, but inevitable. More tanks, more aircraft, more ships, more supplies. Eventually, that production advantage would grind German resistance into dust. The Ardennes offensive was a final desperate attempt to change the strategic situation. Use the last reserves. Achieve a dramatic victory. Force negotiations. It failed because desperation cannot overcome industrial disparity. The survivors of Richter's company reached German lines on December 27th. They were fed, resupplied, and sent to rest areas for recovery. Richter spent 3 days sleeping. Then he was assigned to a replacement battalion. The regiment had been destroyed. Survivors were redistributed to other units. Richter would continue fighting. New battles, new positions, constant retreat toward Germany. He fought through January, February, March, always retreating, always losing ground. German forces lacked supplies, reinforcements, hope. They fought because orders demanded it, but everyone knew the war was lost. American forces advanced steadily. They crossed the Rhine in March. They surrounded the Ruhr industrial region in April. German resistance collapsed. Units surrendered en masse, not because soldiers lacked courage, but because they lacked everything else. No fuel, no ammunition, no food, no medical supplies. No reason to continue dying for a cause that was already lost. Richter surrendered to American forces on April 18, 1945. His unit was out of ammunition and surrounded. Continued resistance meant pointless deaths. The officers decided to surrender. They marched into American lines, carrying white flags. American military police processed them as prisoners of war. The camps were overcrowded but adequately supplied. Prisoners received food, medical care, shelter. Richter gained weight during the first month of captivity. He had been malnourished for months without realizing it. Regular meals restored his health. American rations in prisoner camps were better than German combat rations had been. He received 3 meals daily: bread, meat, vegetables, fruit, coffee, everything in sufficient quantities, no luxuries but adequate nutrition. His physical recovery was rapid. Mental recovery took longer. He had spent 5 years fighting for Germany. Now, Germany was defeated. Everything he had believed, everything he had sacrificed, meant nothing. The cause was lost. The war was over. His future was uncertain. American interrogators interviewed prisoners systematically. They documented German, military operations, command structures, logistics systems, everything relevant to historical analysis. Richter was interviewed on May 3, 1945. He answered questions about his unit's participation in the Ardennes offensive, objectives, tactics, supply conditions, reasons for failure. He described the Christmas Eve aerial resupply he witnessed, the colored parachutes descending into American lines, the captured American rations his company had recovered, the quality and abundance of American supplies compared to German shortages. The interrogator took detailed notes. He asked specifically about German soldier morale after witnessing American resupply operations. Richter said, "The aerial resupply demonstrated 2 things. First, Americans had functioning logistics that could deliver supplies anywhere needed, even to surrounded garrisons under siege. Second, Americans cared enough about their soldiers to use cargo space for morale items during critical operations." Both observations affected German morale negatively. Soldiers who watched enemies being resupplied while their own supplies disappeared understood the implications. The enemy had resources. Germany did not. The enemy would win. Germany would lose. That knowledge sapped motivation. Men fought less aggressively when they believed defeat was inevitable. The interrogator asked if the Christmas packages specifically affected German perceptions. Richter said he did not know about Christmas packages. He knew about colored parachutes and special cargo. After the war, he learned that some of those bundles contained individually wrapped presents from American civilians. Families and churches had assembled care packages for soldiers, personal items, handwritten notes, small gifts. When Richter heard this, he understood something profound about why Germany lost. America fought a total war while maintaining civilian morale and engagement. American families supported soldiers by baking cookies and knitting scarves. German families were being bombed in their homes. American factory workers produced supplies abundantly while earning good wages. German factory workers labored under slave conditions, producing inadequate quantities. American logistics delivered Christmas presents to surrounded soldiers. German logistics could not deliver basic rations to frontline units. The disparity was absolute. Germany never had a chance once America committed fully to the war. Lieutenant Kingsley remained in Europe until August 1945. After the German surrender, he continued managing medical logistics for occupation forces. His duties involved coordinating supply distribution, managing inventory, processing equipment, standard quartermaster work. He never discussed the Christmas package request. He never claimed credit for the idea. It was one decision among thousands he made during the war. Soldiers needed supplies. He requested supplies. Some requests were approved. Some were not. The Christmas packages were approved and delivered. That was sufficient. Recognition was unnecessary. He resumed peacetime duties at the War Department in Washington. He wrote reports analyzing European theater logistics. Lessons learned, best practices, recommendations for future operations. He included a brief mention of morale support items in his analysis. He noted that non-essential supplies could significantly impact soldier psychological health when delivered during critical moments. He recommended that future logistics planning include provisions for morale items when tactically feasible. He did not mention the Christmas packages specifically. He presented the concept generally. Military bureaucracies preferred general principles over specific anecdotes. Hargrove understood that. He wrote recommendations that would influence doctrine without revealing irregular decisions he had made. The volunteers who assembled Christmas packages returned to normal civilian life after the war ended. They had contributed to the war effort in small ways, knitting scarves, baking cookies, writing encouraging notes. Their contributions seemed minor compared to soldiers who fought and died. But their contributions mattered. Soldiers who received those packages remembered them. Years later, veterans would mention Christmas at Bastogne. The siege, the cold, the desperation, and the parachutes that brought supplies and hope. Some specifically remembered the personal packages, the handwritten notes from strangers, the small gifts that reminded them people cared. Those memories sustained veterans through difficult post-war adjustments. When they struggled with trauma or loss, they remembered that people back home had supported them. That support validated their sacrifice. They had fought for people who appreciated what they did. That appreciation made the suffering meaningful. Margaret, the 9-year-old girl who knitted a scarf for an unknown soldier, never learned who received it. She grew up in post-war America. Married, raised children, lived a normal life. She remembered the war years as a time when everyone contributed. Children collected scrap metal. Women worked in factories. Families rationed food and gasoline. Everyone sacrificed because the nation was fighting for survival. Her scarf was a small contribution, but it was her contribution. She did what she could. Everyone helped however possible. Collectively, those small contributions created the industrial and social capacity that won the war. Lieutenant Spears kept Margaret's scarf for the rest of his life. He tried to find her after the war, but could not locate her. The return address on her letter was incomplete. Just a first name and a city. Not enough information to track down one girl among thousands in a large city. He kept the scarf anyway. It reminded him why he fought. Not for abstract principles, but for actual people. 9-year-old girls who should grow up safe and free. Families who wanted soldiers to come home. Communities that supported military service with tangible acts of kindness. Those were things worth fighting for, worth dying for if necessary. He survived and carried that scarf as a reminder that his service had meaning beyond combat. He protected people who cared about him, even though they never met. That was sufficient purpose. The Battle of the Bulge ended in late January 1945. German forces withdrew to defensive positions inside Germany. American forces pursued. The war continued for 4 more months. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945. The European war was over. Total Allied victory. Total German defeat. The outcome was never seriously in doubt after December 1944. German logistics had collapsed. Industrial capacity was destroyed. Manpower was exhausted. The Ardennes offensive consumed Germany's last strategic reserves without achieving strategic objectives. After that, only retreat and surrender remained. American logistics functioned throughout. Supplies flowed constantly. Reinforcements arrived. Equipment was replaced. The system worked under pressure. That logistical superiority, more than tactical brilliance or strategic genius, determined the outcome. Armies with supplies defeat armies without supplies. That simple equation governed modern warfare. The Christmas packages represented something larger than individual gifts. They represented a nation fully mobilized for total war while maintaining civilian morale and productive capacity. American families assembled care packages while American factories produced weapons. American volunteers wrote encouraging notes while American soldiers fought battles. The entire society functioned cohesively toward victory. That cohesion created military effectiveness that Germany could not match. German society was fracturing under bombing, casualties, and deprivation. American society was strengthening through shared purpose and collective effort. The packages were evidence of that strength. Civilians who took time to help unknown soldiers demonstrated national unity. That unity translated into industrial production, logistical efficiency, and military success. The war taught lessons about logistics that shaped military doctrine for decades. Supplies matter more than tactics. Transportation matters more than weapons. Industrial capacity matters more than battlefield courage. Modern warfare is won by nations that can produce, transport, and distribute materials faster than enemies can destroy them. Germany lost because it could not sustain production and distribution against enemies with superior industrial economies. Japan lost for the same reason. The Axis powers fought courageously and skillfully, but courage and skill cannot overcome resource exhaustion. Eventually, armies without supplies stop fighting, soldiers without food become ineffective, units without ammunition surrender. Nations without industrial capacity lose wars. The Christmas packages at Bastogne illustrated this reality in miniature. One side delivered gifts to surrounded soldiers. The other side watched and understood they were defeated. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.